Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. In our top story, the territory received relief in the form of an extended curfew this past Sunday. Originally, the governor had previously stated that he wanted to lift the curfew to the weekend. However, as he stated, his cabinet members advised him not to do so. Further, tomorrow is a big day for the territory as the chief of state is expected to visit. Here's more.
The Virgin Islands, as well as Puerto Rico, the only two American territories in the Atlantic Ocean, will receive a visit from the Chief of Staff tomorrow.
I will be going to Puerto Rico on Tuesday. I'll also be going to the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Since being ravaged by two Category 5 hurricanes in the past 3 weeks, Governor Mapp has cited that he has had verbal conversations with President Trump and received confirmation that the territory will be provided aid to assist with recovery efforts.
Massive effort is underway, and we have been really treated very, very nicely by the governor and by everybody else. They know how hard we're working and what a good job we're doing. As we speak, FEMA, our great first responders, and all available federal resources, including the military, are being marshaled to save lives, protect families, and begin a long and very, very difficult restoration process.
Vice President Mike Pence and his wife Karen Pence are also scheduled to visit the territory on Friday, and the couple will reportedly be on the ground speaking with hurricane survivors as well as surveying the damage of the territory through an aerial tour. Over the weekend, Virgin Islanders with accounts with AT&T reported on having better coverage, which enabled residents to view Governor Mapp's Facebook post on Sunday, which extended the curfew on all three islands to 8 p.m. to enjoy Football Sunday. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
The Commissioner of the Virgin Islands Police Department informed in a news briefing that domestic violence was rising in the territory. Residents are definitely feeling stress from the effects of Hurricane Irma and Maria, he said. And if you and anyone you know needs help, the Department of Health has set up a disaster distress helpline to aid with such issues. Call 1-800-985-5990. Press 2 for Spanish. Well, the AG held a joint press conference at the Department of Justice's conference room on St. Thomas to provide official information concerning the victims who reportedly died during the passages of Hurricane Maria and Irma. Here's more from that conference.
As of October 2nd, 2017, the following 3 deaths occurred due to the direct effects of Hurricane Irma. The first decedent is Mr. Ishmael Harrigan, age 40, of Estate Mariendal. He is a sergeant both in the Virgin Islands National Guard and the Virgin Islands Bureau of Corrections. Sergeant Harrigan died at his home from blunt force trauma sustained on September 6, 2017 in Estate Mariendal, St. Thomas. The second decedent is Miss Carlina Penn, age 38, of Estate Anna's Retreat in St. Thomas, who died as a result of sustaining blunt force trauma due to a fall at the Tutu high-rise complex on September 6, 2017. The third decedent is Mr. Jason Julius, age 46, a lineman with the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, who died due to high voltage electrocution while he tried to help restore power in Sugar Estate, St. Thomas on September 12, 2017. And now, the fatalities associated with Hurricane Maria. As of October 2nd, 2017, the following 2 deaths occurred pertaining to the direct effects of Hurricane Maria. The first decedent is Mr. Maurice Jackson, age 66, of Estate Anna's Retreat, St. Thomas, who drowned due to flooding at his home on September 20th, 2017. The second decedent is Mr. Ralph Everett III, age 57, of Estate Frenchman's Bay, St. Thomas, who died due to asphyxiation and blunt force trauma after being trapped in his home in a mudslide. His body was found on September 24th, 2017, a few days after Hurricane Maria.
In other news, Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas departed St. Thomas on Saturday afternoon and will be arriving in Fort Lauderdale on Tuesday morning. Passengers are expected to embark around 8 a.m. The cruise ship is carrying more than 1,400 residents and visitors from the U.S. Virgin Islands. 866 boarded the vessel on St. Croix on Friday, and close to 560 individuals in the St. Thomas-St. John district boarded the ship before it departed on Saturday. Now, approximately 4,500 residents and visitors who have been impacted by the hurricanes have been evacuated from the USVI to date, 3,000 on Mercy Cruises. Commissioner of Tourism Beverly Nicholson Doty thanked the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association, Norwegian, and Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines for their assistance in providing the humanitarian relief and mercy missions. CYRIL King Airport remains open, and the Henry Rolson Airport is scheduled to open for commercial flights on Thursday, Governor Mapp announced. The Tourism Commissioner also thanked airline partners Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and in particular JetBlue for helping to transport approximately 1,500 by air to date. 150 people from St. Croix left on Sunday via a JetBlue Mercy flight. The Department of Tourism continues to work to assist additional residents with their transportation needs. The Virgin Islands Port Authority's Board of Governors will be conducting its regular scheduled monthly board meeting on October 4th at 10:30 a.m. That meeting will be held in the Crown Bay Center's conference room at the Austin Bay Monsanto Marine Terminal, which is at 161 Sub-Base St. Thomas. A country music festival turns tragic in Las Vegas, ending in the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Police say at least 58 people are dead, more than 500 injured, and that number may rise. Concert goers described chaos and confusion. Authorities are seeking a motive. Kristen Holmes is in Las Vegas with the details.
President Trump at the White House addressing the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history.
It was an act of pure evil. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are working closely with local authorities to assist with the investigation.
In Las Vegas, the investigation just beginning. This morning, police identifying the shooter as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. Paddock checking into the Mandalay Bay Resort on September 28th, and in his room, at least 10 rifles. Last night, just after 10 p.m. in Las Vegas, Paddock firing from the 32nd floor into a crowd of about 22,000 concert goers. Police believe Paddock shot and killed himself prior to their entry into his hotel room. Survivors describing a terrifying scene on the ground.
No matter which direction you went in, no matter where you took cover, there was at least 2 to 3 bodies that were a part of it, and you didn't know where you were safe.
Stormy Warren was a co-host of the concert. He said his first thought was pyrotechnics. Instead, it was gunshots.
Totally haphazard. It seemed like he just wanted to hit that group of people, and as many of them as possible.
In Las Vegas, I'm Kristen Holmes.
Coming up, we have much more ahead on News 2. What St. Thomas graduating seniors need to know. That's coming up next, as well as an update from Lieutenant Governor Osbert who gives more information on recovery efforts. That's coming up. Welcome back. Here's an update from the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. The shipped utility poles, part of an initial shipment of additional supplies needed to rebuild the transmission and distribution system at WAPA. That work continued over the weekend. Convoys were deployed from the cruise ship dock in Havenside, destined for the West End, North Side, and East End areas. A second shipment of approximately 2,500 poles are expected shortly this week. Be sure to comment too. We will keep you updated. The Virgin Islands assisting the British Virgin Islands by having the British Army utilize the territory's airports to serve as a hub to get much needed supplies and commodities to other territories associated with the UK. TV2 News 2 was able to speak with Wing Commander Andy Barron of the Royal Air Force on his responsibilities and how his operation has aided other Caribbean islands thus far. Here's more.
My mission here is I'm the commander of this support helicopter aviation task force, and what that is Chinook and Puma helicopters from the Royal Air Force providing aid to the British Virgin Islands and Turks and Caicos. So my detachment is split into two. Here on the US Virgin Islands I've got 3 Puma helicopters, and we are primarily providing aid to the British Virgin Islands, and I've got 2 Chinook helicopters on Turks and Caicos, and they're providing support to the Turks and Caicos island chain. What happens initially is that the people of the UK provide a lot of aid, a lot of support, whether it be it money, blankets, food, water, medical supplies, and they are either sailed from the United Kingdom or flown in Royal Air Force Air Transport or charter aircraft to this airport, or in fact if it's by ship to the port on the British Virgin Islands. From here we'll offload the air transport, so the big passenger aircraft full of aid, and then we'll break it down into smaller packages and then fly that forward by Puma helicopter or Chinook into the British Virgin Islands. Well, I think we've been here 3 weeks now, and I think we've about a week to 10 days left. Of course, that's a flexible feast. If the situation deteriorates, or there's another storm, or the civilian-led administration thinks they just need a little bit more help, then of course we're on hand to stay a little bit longer. But at the minute, we're looking at about a week to 10 days to maybe wrap up the military side of the operation. However, it's important to note that military personnel will still remain on the ground under the direction of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and there will still be United Kingdom government presence here for months to come to help reconstruction.
Governor Mapp said the Blue Roof program rolled out, and he's reminding residents with damaged homes and properties who are registering for assistance either through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, or their insurance providers to put up signs detailing their plot numbers or address to help adjusters or relief workers identify their houses. High school seniors of the Ivana Udoracan High School as well as the Shaldomali High School met on Friday to discuss more issues. Department of Education Commissioner McCollum invited the students and parents to a very important mandatory meeting to hear more about the school schedule and more.
Basically, there was a meeting with the superintendent of schools. She runs school, Dr. in this case, Deanne Wells Hendrington, and she spoke about seeing that October 10th is a tentative date. We're shooting for the 10th, all in the district itself. But you know, ultimately things can change. We here at Charlotte Amalie High School actually were shooting for the 2nd, but you know, there are a few infrastructures that need to be taken care of. That's electricity on our eastern side. But we fared well, you know, to the hurricane, both hurricanes. So in our preliminary report, we reported that we were 95% up and ready to go. Graduation has not been impacted to the point whereby it occurs as a ceremony in June. So that's months from now. What was important is that kids and the families realize that they must be cognizant of the classes that must be taken. There might not be resources to do what we call after-school studies based on obtain a credit recovery situation in the afternoon because of the curfew. If the curfew is lifted, then we can have all of that. We don't know what the economic status is of education as a whole, whether or not there are monies to do such things. But graduation will not be a problem. Prom will not be a problem. All of those things that are in the future will not be a problem. It will be more at the forefront of persons' brains because, you know, they wondered about it. But now that we can project that school begins in a few days from now, graduation is not a problem.
Dr. David Hall, president of the University of the Virgin Islands, said starting today, Monday, October 2nd, the St. Thomas campus resumed normal working hours from 8:30 to 4:30. St. Croix employees reported to work consistent with the curfew hours that exist. He said they are committed to resuming classes on both campuses on Monday, October 9th. Though some classroom buildings have been damaged, all of the facilities are expected to be cleaned, restored, and ready for operations by October 9th. He said some classes may resume even sooner, depending on the restoration of permanent power and the internet communications. The university will communicate to the new class schedule and complete academic plans to all prior to the recommencement of classes. Students with academic questions are encouraged to email at academics@uvi.edu. Well, here's more from Lieutenant Governor Osbert Potter. We caught up with him. He's sharing some information on recovery efforts in the VI. Here's more.
The curfew was put in place specifically so that VIA, Water and Power Authority, and Public Works could actually get on the road and do their repair, their cleanup, their clearing of lines and protecting of those lines, because we had individuals initially cutting a whole lot of things that were in their way, and curfew was put in place so that these particular three entities, and to some extent Waste Management, could work in getting the place cleaned up, and that has been working pretty good. I think because of the mass destruction, we know that it will take a while for WAPA to get into certain areas and restore power, and for VIA to get into other areas and get certain lines up. I think we just want to let the public know that, what we experience are two unusual hurricanes, two unusually strong hurricanes, and they came back to back, not one, but two. And we are just asking the public to be a little more patient. We have to be patient. Things are going to come back, and they're going to come back even stronger than ever. But you really need to be patient and recognize the fact, and I recognize this every day, that with how ferocious these hurricanes were, a lot of us could have been hurt and damaged or killed. And the fact that that did not happen to but a handful of individuals, unfortunately, we need to be thankful, and we need to recognize the importance of certain things over certain things. Your life, you have it. Your health, you have it. That is so critically more important than whether or not you're going to get to see TV today, whether or not you're going to have to come off of the road at 6 o'clock for the purposes that we mentioned. So you have life, you have 99% of what you need, and just be patient with us. We are going to get you through this in short order.
Stick around. Your News 2 Accu with the forecast is coming up next.
It's nice to get some quieter weather across the U.S. Virgin Islands. We're not dealing with many significant tropical threats in the local forecast. This next wave is out there a good distance to the east. That should not be much of a threat. We're really keeping an eye off to the south and west, about 1,000 miles away, where there are some concerns about possible development with this giant swirl of low pressure near Central America, but there's nothing imminent out that way either. You can see most of the thunderstorm action on a regional scale still off well to our west into places like the Dominican Republic. Not much of a concern for us. Satellite estimated rainfall, which again is what we're relying on since Puerto Rico's radar took a major hit with Maria, is showing generally dry weather with a few fleeting sprinkles and showers. Many of them are a little more likely out toward Vieques and Culebra, and less so for us in the true U.S. Virgin Islands. Mainly clear tonight, down to 78 degrees. Very nice out out there. And as we look at tomorrow's forecast for St. John, a brief shower, doesn't look widespread. It's not going to last long. Will be around 88 for your high. Into St. Thomas, similar story, 88, a spotty shower, not lasting long to the south into St. Croix. Could be a shower or two. 87 degrees, not much of a change there. For the marine forecast, waves are still somewhat active, though not quite as large as they were back on Friday of last week. 3 to 5 footers with that trade wind continuing at 10 to 15 knots. For the Caribbean side, they're just a little smaller, 2 to 4 footers. Still a bit of a chop out there for some of you boaters, especially on the smaller boats. When we look at the extended forecast, again, there's nothing to lose sleep over, that's for sure, though we still have about 7.5 to 8 weeks left in the hurricane season. It doesn't end until the final day of November. But the extended forecast doesn't bring any threatening weather to us. There will be some occasional brief showers, just classic Caribbean weather. Temperatures very consistent, upper 80s. Lows will be in the upper 70s as well. So all in all, Sandy, it's not a bad looking forecast, as we certainly hope that the recovery efforts continue with more and more success every passing day. Back to you.
Thanks for that update. Time for our news to weather picture there by Jamakai Gerald, first grader representing the Lockhart Elementary School. And those are some of the showers we had over the weekend. Jamakai, keep the umbrella handy. Looking not too bad for now. Send us your news to weather picture to the address right there on the screen, and be sure to tune in and see it right here on News 2. That's all for this edition. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time.